New Orleans is a city where music spills out of every doorway, where parades seem to erupt from thin air, and where the night is always alive with possibility. But beyond the jazz and the Mardi Gras beads lies another layer of the city, one that is steeped in mysticism, spirituality, and occult traditions that have shaped its identity for centuries. This is the New Orleans that tourists rarely glimpse, a place where rituals, festivals, and hidden gatherings keep the city's occult heartbeat alive. Today, we are exploring New Orleans' occult festivals you didn't know. Everyone has heard of Mardi Gras, but few realize how many of its roots are tied to old rituals of transformation and rebirth. Behind the glittering masks and brass bands are echoes of pagan traditions, Catholic ceremonies, and even African spiritual practices that made their way across the Atlantic. Some of the crews, those secretive societies that organize the parades, weave esoteric symbols into their floats and costumes. To the untrained eye, it's just celebration, but for those who know the codes, it's a festival layered with hidden meaning. But Mardi Gras is only the beginning. One of the lesser-known but most intriguing festivals is the annual St. John's Eve celebration, held on June 23rd at Bayou St. John. This event has deep roots in Voodoo tradition, dating back to the days of Marie Laveau, the legendary Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. On this night, followers and curious onlookers gather at the water's edge, lighting candles, singing, and sometimes bathing in the bayou as a ritual of cleansing and renewal. It is a night when the veil between worlds feels thin, and when the spiritual energy of New Orleans rises to the surface. Another hidden festival is the annual Witchfest, a gathering of modern witches, pagans, and occult practitioners who come together to celebrate their traditions in the heart of the French Quarter. Workshops, rituals, and markets fill the streets with an energy that feels both ancient and alive. Here you might see tarot readings offered beside live music, or candlelit ceremonies taking place just steps away from bustling Bourbon Street. It is a reminder that New Orleans embraces all of its identities, both mainstream and mystical, without apology. For those who seek something darker, the city also hosts the Vampire Ball, an event that coincides with the annual Endless Night Festival. This is not just a costume party, it's a gathering of people who embrace the Gothic, the occult, and the theatrical side of the city's culture. Held in atmospheric venues filled with velvet, chandeliers, and shadows, the Vampire Ball feels like stepping into another world, where myth and reality blur and the night seems eternal. Some participants even treat it as a spiritual experience, invoking ancient archetypes of immortality and transformation. But New Orleans' occult calendar doesn't end there. There are also smaller, more intimate gatherings that remain hidden from most visitors. In certain neighborhoods, practitioners of Voodoo and Hoodoo still hold private ceremonies, often aligned with feast days or lunar cycles. These are not tourist attractions, but living traditions, carried forward by families and communities who see them as part of their heritage. The sound of drumming, the smell of incense, the sight of altars glowing with candles, these moments connect the city to its African, Caribbean, and indigenous roots in powerful ways. The city's connection to the occult is also visible in its cemeteries, which play host to their own kinds of rituals and gatherings. St. Louis Cemetery No. 1, the resting place of Marie Laveau herself, has long been a site of pilgrimage, where visitors leave offerings in hopes of receiving her blessings. On certain nights, groups gather here quietly, paying respect to ancestors and calling on spirits to guide them. Though the gates often close at dusk, the atmosphere around these cemeteries remains charged with mystery, as though the dead are never too far away. Another little-known celebration tied to the occult is the Crew of the Mystic Society, a group that blends carnival fun with esoteric symbolism. Their parades are filled with imagery drawn from astrology, mythology, and secret traditions. While most parade-goers simply enjoy the spectacle, those familiar with the symbols recognize references to alchemy, ancient gods, and mystical transformation. It is a perfect example of how New Orleans hides layers of meaning in plain sight. Even the city's music festivals sometimes carry a hidden edge. At events like the Voodoo Music Plus Arts Experience, the themes of magic and ritual are embraced openly. Stages are decorated with occult symbols, and performances often take on the energy of ceremonies rather than simple concerts. It is as if the city cannot separate its art from its spirit, and so every gathering becomes, in some way, an offering to forces beyond the ordinary. What makes all of these festivals so unique is that they are not staged performances for outsiders but authentic expressions of New Orleans' identity. The occult here is not just about ghost stories or tourist shops selling gris-gris bags. It is a living, breathing part of the culture. To walk through the city during one of these festivals is to feel that blend of joy and mystery, of life and death, that defines New Orleans. So what ties all of these occult festivals together? It is the sense that in New Orleans, celebration is never just about fun. It is about transformation, about crossing thresholds, about honoring the seen and unseen, whether it's bathing in the waters of the bayou on St. John's Eve, dancing in velvet at the vampire ball, or parading with symbols of ancient wisdom. Every festival carries the same message, that the spirit world is always near, and that life is richer when we acknowledge it. So next time you think of New Orleans, don't just picture Mardi Gras beads or jazz on Bourbon Street. Picture candles flickering by the bayou as voices rise in song. Picture masked figures dancing under the moon, invoking forgotten gods. Picture a city that refuses to separate the sacred from the celebratory. That is the New Orleans of occult festivals. Alive, mysterious, and unforgettable. And maybe, if you find yourself here during one of these nights, you'll feel it too, that electric mix of joy and magic that makes New Orleans unlike any other city in the world. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel out. Share it with a friend who loves a good mystery as much as you do. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time. There's plenty more to uncover, and I'd love for you to be part of the journey.